All right, so we've got everybody in here. So, hi everyone, I'm Jessica Busch. I'm in the Keller Williams flagship of Maryland office out of Millersville, Maryland, so Annapolis. Um, Today we've got a great panel of agents here to talk about KW culture and some takeaways from Mega Camp. Coming off of that as well. So I'm going to do just a few little housekeeping rules first. If you're not on the panel, please mute yourself. Thank you. But also go in and make sure that next to that you go in and change your name so that next to your name it shows the area you're from, so everybody else who is joining in with us on Zoom can see where you're from. See that most of us already have that, so that's great. I'll do a little bit of start with introductions. So let's start. So Grace, you're right next to me. You're my first one. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Grace Schiffman, and I'm in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. I'm an agent in Savannah, obviously, but I'm also the Vice President of Lady Leaders of Real Estate, the founder of MARN, which is the Military Agent Resource Network. And I co-partner with Jesus Aguilar and his beautiful wife to put together our cultural lunches and networking events. So I'm so proud to be here, Jessica, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, thank you for being here. Jesus, you are to the right of me. Would you like to go next?
How's it going, everyone? I'm Jesus Aguilar. I service the Los Angeles market. The Los Angeles is really big, so primarily I focus San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, and Antelope Valley. As Grace had mentioned, a year ago, we were blessed to bring the very first Cultural Ambassador Networking event. For me, it's that key component of having people close by and being in relationship that's so important. So thank you, Grace, for helping me with that. And I'm also the vice president for the National Association of Hispanic Realtors at our local chapter. And I think we'll talk about something that's similar to that in our talk today. So yeah, I've been licensed for almost 20 years now.
Thanks. And so one part that we skipped, and so Grace, I'll go back to you after Jesus, but what brought you to KW? Jesus.
Oh, me? Oh, I thought you said Grace. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm waiting for Grace to answer. What brought me, honestly, the culture. I know that this is a topic about culture, but, those that know me on a personal level, they know that I have a very deep faith. I'm very rooted in my faith. And so when a company starts with God, family, then business, to me, that speaks volumes. All my life, I've tried to do the right thing. And sometimes when you do the right thing, you lose big. There are opportunities that pass you by because you have to decide, do I go left? Do I go right? And there's a lot of times that you're tempted to go in the wrong direction because the benefit of it. But in the long run, I think that the way Keller Williams runs their company really speaks to how I feel day to day with, how I like to treat people, how I like to run my business. So the culture of 100%.
Great, thanose. Grace.
Easy, God, family, business. I think for probably the majority of us, those aren't just words, that's the way we live our life. So for me, it was an easy choice when I passed my test. Those three words were that's how I live my life. That's who I want to associate with, God, family, business.
Thanks. Brittany, how about you?
Hello, I'm Brittany Stewart, and I'm from Dallas. I was going to wear my cowgirl hat for y'all, but my hair's up, so I decided not to. Let's see. I've been in real estate my whole adult career for 16 years. I'm a broker in Florida as well as obviously in Texas. And the reason that I joined KW is actually a little bit more by default originally. I was in Jacksonville, Florida before I moved here. KW did not have a strong presence. I co-founded a small brokerage. My husband's job transferred us here, just like about 250 people a day who live in the Dallas Metroplex. And a childhood friend had recommended that I speak with Keller Williams. And I knew two people when I moved here. KW had the market share. I wanted to align with KW. But essentially, as soon as I got there, I had been in real estate almost 11 years. I had never set goals. I had never done a plan. I had never done a 1-3-5, nothing. So by default, I came at KW, but I stay here obviously because of that culture. I miss everyone here because I love all the like-minded individuals and getting to mastermind and spend time with people just by the culture that has been based, you know, and developed through KW. So.
Thank you. And Oglah, what about you?
I'm Oglah Gautama. I am an OP in the Orlando South Market Center. I started with Keller Williams 4 years ago as an agent, and then moved on to be a team leader a few months later, and finally an OP last July. And I'm also on the National Social Equity Task Force, and also lead the region for that. So I'm really excited about the time that we're living right now in Keller Williams. What attracted me to Keller Williams, I feel like I'm repeating what everybody else said. I've worked in corporate America in different leadership roles for, it was 20 years before I joined Keller Williams. And I had always been part of great organizations that truly loved people, loved community, and yet in those, in the hospitality industry and also retail, you know, blatantly saying the word God. I mean, forget putting it in all your, you know, your company website and, you know, that. So that was not something that was, you know, acceptable. And so when I heard about Keller Williams, I really don't remember anything else from that conversation with the team leader, but just the values of the company, because they were staring at me right at the room where she was interviewing me. And that's it. I fell in love with this company, and year over year, I've just fallen in love with it even more.
Thanks. Thank you. And I would say the same for me. What everybody else said is that the culture is what drew me to Keller Williams. I've been an agent for about 3.5 years now. And when I lined up interviews with a number of different brokerages, I sat down with KW first. And as soon as I heard about Red Day, I was like, okay, this is me. And I came in as a new agent, kind of took that over in my office. And now I'm the chair of the Red Day Planning Committee. And it was volunteer work and community service was always a big part of what I did prior to getting into real estate. And it was that drew me in to want to be with KW, but also the, like everybody else has said, the training and the involvement from the brokerage, the goal setting that you just don't see anywhere else. Like, all of that was a big deal to me. And so we've kind of talked about question 2 just a little bit for all of our panelists, but we'll touch on it just a little bit more in terms of business. But the next question we have for everybody is, what does KW culture mean to you? And how is the ideal of coming from contribution integrated into your business plan? Grace, would you like to go first?
So what does KW culture mean to me? I think I had sold real estate before when I was younger, in my 20s. And I can tell you that I've never seen a group of people united towards helping each other. I think it starts there, right? It's not only how we deal with other people and what we do for our community. It's really going into an office environment, going into an environment like this, and knowing that people are going to be forthright and honest and have your best interest at heart. I mean, that's just, I think that is a shocking thing for anybody who sold in real estate anywhere else. For you to be able to go talk to a mega agent when you first start and say, oh, by the way, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? Or, you know, can you walk me through this? I think that that's kind of a surprising element, and it's part of our culture, right? I mean, I would never, ever not help anybody, but I think that if you go to somewhere else, no, that's kind of like, it doesn't happen the way it happens at KW. And I think that that's just the beginning of the culture part for a Keller Williams agent, is agents really helping each other and holding each other accountable to make sure that everybody, you know, is really in a win-win situation.
Agreed. And I'd say when I came to my office, every agent, every team has an open door policy where I know I can walk into anybody's office and ask them a question and get an answer and get help. Yeah. Hey, Sus, what about you?
You know, just touching on what Grace had mentioned, coming from a different brokerage, I didn't start at KW, great brokerage, but yet all the mega agents always had their doors closed. I was a brand new agent, and I was lucky to have a mentor who did pull me aside, and his words always ring true. He always said, I'm telling you this not because I want to impress you, but I want to impress upon you how many doors real estate can open. And so I took that to heart. He's not with Keller Williams. I tried to bring him on board, but you know, he's got his love for his company, and I definitely have a lot of respect for him in that sense. But when I came to Keller Williams, you know, I've been blessed to be able to excel at the business and just learn little by little. And what I knew early on was that I wanted to share all of that information with people. So, you know, being on the ALC and being the education chairperson, when I teach an Ignite class or when I have a panel or there's anything that I'm giving out to anyone, I want to make sure that there's some substance behind it. I don't just want to go through the template. I don't want to just go through the slides. I want it to be real life situations and give examples and take a little bit extra time. And I think that that's what separates our company, because when there is that culture of coming from contribution, it's so easy to just disperse it. You know, we want to see other people do better. And I will always recall being the young kid that was, you know, teaching at LAUSD, and I needed to find a different avenue to be able to get my kids to college. And so I put myself in those shoes of people that are coming in. And sometimes you have to teach in a way that really gives them the reality of what our business is. There are a lot of doors that can open, and yet there has to be action behind it. So I think for us, coming from contribution is really important. Also, when we're talking about the business plan, you know, just you take care of people. I know we all have business plans. We all have numbers that we want to hit. Do we sell 50 houses? Do we sell 100 houses? Do we sell 1,000 houses? And I think that the number one way to reach those goals is just to take care of people. When the phone rings, answer it. When they have a question, don't get frustrated. You know, just be attentive to people. And then, you know, referrals from them come naturally. So I never focus on the income. I always focus on the people, because when my mom passed away, they didn't focus on her. You know, she was all by herself, and it took a very special agent at a very special brokerage to take care of her. So for me, it's always take care of the people.
Agreed. Thank you. Brittany?
So KW culture for me, it bleeds across everywhere in your life. I think the biggest thing that KW culture means to me is mindset, just because that's where I personally had the largest shift. So for instance, we hear it all the time talking about coming from scarcity versus coming from abundance. The other competitors, they come from scarcity. They don't want to share. They feel like someone's going to steal their secrets, all of that, the business mind. But I feel like it bleeds also to home life, to kids, children, spouse, friends, you know, all around, your encompasses your whole life. I did a short stint as team leader. God bless team leaders. And it's funny how I hear all this feedback, and even from my team, where you have people who are now submerged in the KW culture, they start to have friction with people in their everyday lives, right? And I tell them, what I see that at is that you've changed, you've had a shift in your mindset. You've grown intellectually because you are now thinking in abundance. Think of your spouse or your children or your best friend or whoever. They haven't had that exposure or those experiences to have that mindset shift. And it really kind of shows. And then also it goes to do with our clients, right? I don't know how you guys are, but in Dallas, KW is it. We are always like the top 8 brokerages just about. So when you have somebody that you're selling and you've got a co-broke with a KW agent, you can just about, I don't want to say guarantee because we are all independent contractors, but you know that there's going to be a different set of standards. There's going to be that win-win mentality. There's going to be the opportunity for them to have training, to have a great broker, all of that. And we've all heard of the golden rule, right? So treat people the way you want to be treated. But what about the platinum rule? And that's what I see when I think about KW is the platinum rule is treat others the way that they want to be treated, right? And with KW, that's essentially what we're trying to establish and you know, kind of go through that as well. And then of course on your team, you know, you already have the culture is already encompassed through your market center. And then it goes down a little more on the micro level for your teams, et cetera. So I think that KW culture is all encompassing and definitely has to do a lot with their mindset for sure.
I agree with the mindset. I often find myself thinking old laws when friends and family are maybe complaining about something or not being solution oriented, and I have to be like, don't just respond in bold laws. But I often find myself sharing the bold laws too with others and in some Facebook groups where it's just women coming together and sharing that as like a source of motivation for people. So
wait till you
Brittany.
Yes.
Brittany, say the platinum rule again.
The platinum rule is treat others the way they would like to be treated. And
that's
I kind of,
huge, girl.
Yeah. And I kind of affiliate this with, I have a degree in psychology and in human sciences. So maybe that's why I think this way, but I almost as you know, associate this and affiliate this a little bit with the DISC profile, right? That we talk so much about how people are characterized, how they want to be spoke to, how they want to be directed, how they want to be respected, how they want to be cherished, whatever that looks like. And I think that that's, you know, obviously big key.
it is.
Yep.
Oglah, what about you?
In my opinion, you know, the Keller Williams culture, right? Like our beautiful Mo Anderson always says, is the predetermined way in which we've decided to treat each other, right? So it's everything that is that has to do with Keller Williams from our belief system, right? When you talk about the win-win, you know, or no deal, or right now that we've just updated it and added equity, the opportunity for all with the Y4C 2 T's now, it's living in that. There's all that 52 items on the what is culture. Culture and being in culture within Keller Williams means that you live that, like it's the creed of who we are, from being kind, from everything from, you know, I tell people production is culture, giving to KW Cares is culture, being kind, having empathy, having understanding, making sure that everybody within all our market centers and our regions and the communities truly feel a great sense of belonging to our company, because it truly is what we stand for. For me, especially as a minority leader and also a woman, and I understand that there's a lot of things that go on outside of Keller Williams, and people truly struggle in their workplaces, in different brokerages, because they don't experience what we get to experience. And we just don't experience, right? We live it, and it shows up in everything that we do with our company. You know, being in culture, right? Our culture is a giving culture. I was given opportunities. I've been blessed to be mentored. I've joined the Lady Leaders group, the Go Givers group, all the networking at family reunion, mega camp. I see our culture come to life at every single point of contact within Keller Williams. So I think our culture is the driving force of our company. Production in itself can only take us to a certain level. That's why we consistently see more coming back and really leaning back on leaders to go back to truly revisiting what our Keller Williams culture is.
I agree.
Jessica, can I add something real quick to what Oglah was saying? So I think that one of the things that I see in culture for all of us is the ability, I mean, it sounds like we have all these little niche groups, you know, like Lady Leaders, Marn, Go Givers. They're open to you. We invite everybody to come in, because like Oglah is just on point. What she has given of her time and energy, we all can to a certain extent, right? We all can go on Go Givers and share good stories, help another lady and lady leaders. But I think, you know, it takes time and effort, but that's all part of culture too, right? Is the ability to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to contribute my time and my, in some cases, my treasure, but then a lot of times it's just time, right? For us to be in that win-win situation. So anyways, I just wanted to say Oglah is awesome.
Can I say too, and this might not be the most welcomed response, but one of the things that we talk about the good, we talk about the pretty and all that fun stuff, but I think also one of the things about KW, and we've seen this as a nation, right? The KW culture is also a low tolerance for people who don't fall within that culture. So I know we can all speak, all of us agents can speak to this. We see this, for instance, gossiping amongst other agents. You know, being within KW culture, being higher and holding yourself to that culture by not gossiping back, not saying things back. But also when people don't fall into what KW culture is, KW is not scared to say, sorry, not the place for you. So I think that, you know, we talk about all the pretty and the fun things, but KW, when it gets down to the nitty gritty, you know, and someone doesn't align with that culture, they're not scared to say, you got to find another home if you don't. And, you know, I think it's been a great example, you know, for our nation to take as well.
Agreed. And I remember from family reunion last year, Diana did a breakout session with Don Yeager, and it was about team culture. And the takeaway from it was that the culture of your team or your organization should be so strong, and that anybody who's outside of that culture feels the need to remove themselves from the organization before you have to. And I see that here, where we, even in a market center, will have agents come in and not last very long, and they leave of their own accord because they don't fall into that culture of kindness and helping each other and everything that KW stands for. Sometimes we don't even have to tell them, see you, bye. They do it themselves before we have to. Let's see. So next topic for us is, so as everybody knows, we've been dealing with a global health pandemic for the past 6 months, and we're all kind of getting a little cabin fever in our own houses. But the question is, what is something you've done in the past 6 months to stay connected with the community during COVID? And what things would you recommend other agents do to help their community during these times? Grace?
I think that the biggest thing that we can do is we don't realize how lonely people are. I mean, it is shocking how much a simple phone call, picking up the phone and talking to someone that you sold a house to 8 months ago and just saying, hey, how are you? You know, how's this or that? Or, I mean, just that has made people feel so good. Something that, you know, that we take for granted or had taken for granted, and not a lead generation call. I mean, these past few months, I have not picked up the phone and said, oh, who do you know that I need to know to buy or sell a house? It's always been, hey, how can we help you? You know, I had at one time, like one son is already back at Georgia Tech, but I had 3 20-something-year-olds living in my house. So I said to all my clients, what do you need at the store that we can go pick up, and they can deliver, because they're young. I mean, they're young men and my young daughter. What do you need for us to do for you? It was never, who do I need to know to buy or sell a house? It was, what can we do for you? And for some people that are alone or, older, or even a single mom, it means the world. So agents, if you have, you have a huge database, pick up the phone and just say, hey, how are you? Is there something I can do for you? Or, can I just pray with you? I think that is what we can do for our community right now.
Agreed. Those check-in phone calls go a long way. I'll say I've always considered myself to be a little introverted. I like my own time often, but I've really missed people the past 6 months. Jesus, what about you?
You know, it's interesting. I promise Grace and I did not speak before this. And so Brittany was talking just earlier about the mindset. And with COVID, I think I've always been taught to just work through the problems. I have no other choice. And yet I will say that, you know, being in a really healthy mental state is really, really important. When my son was younger, I've always taught him to come from contribution, just him as a child. And so I know that we had, as a family, gone into a convalescent home because, you know, I have one of 4 grandparents left. So I know how lonely it can become for somebody when you don't have anybody to come visit you. And one thing that I would suggest that everybody do is, if you have a convalescent home near you, a lot of these places were not able to have visitors. It's amazing. Grace is absolutely 100% correct. When you pick up the phone, I'm not talking my database, although I don't consider anybody at the convalescent home my database. These are just people that we got to know during the volunteer time that we were there. To pick up the phone and just have a conversation and let them talk and let them share their stories and tell them, you know, let them allow you to hear how they feel. It goes such a long way. They look forward to the phone call. You know, as a, you know, vice president of NAREP, we do a lot of other things within the community, you know, whether it's the food pantry or whether it's, you know, different organizations that help kids with autism and stuff like that. But to me, that phone call that I place to these individuals every week, that to hear the joy in their voice, that somebody can actually speak to them, because some of them don't have family members that, you know, talk to them on a regular basis. So unfortunately, some of these people are alone. So whether you're older or younger, I think it's really important just to pick up that phone and really just let people know how much you love them. I asked a friend recently, when was the last time he told his mom that he loved her? And he's like in his 50s. He said that the last time that he can recall that conversation is when he was in grade school. And it hurt me to hear that. And so I asked him to put his mom on the phone because he would not tell her. And I said, look, and it was actually FaceTime. So I told her how much I loved her. And I said, Red, it's not that hard, you know? But sometimes we get into this mentality that we can't show our feelings because somehow that's a sign of weakness. But I think that, you know, when you really choose your words and let people know how important they are to you, you can change the outlook of their day, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. And definitely just continuing to check in with people and make sure that they feel loved and important right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brittany?
So our approach to COVID at first was, cut everything, don't spend a dime. But quickly, it's really, I think, kind of a blessing, because my team did our 2020 GPS 135. And one of those main facets where I have felt a hole is not giving back enough. I did not feel fulfilled in that arena. So I feel like COVID actually was a little bit of a blessing for us to continue to give back. Many of you know, Grace, Sheena, and I started Go Givers. So if you're not on there, feel free to pop over, Go Givers Real Estate. We have, it's a little yellow logo like this. But we started that because everybody just was talking news, politics, bad, negative. And I am very high D, and I just want to get on with it and fix things. And sometimes you just can't. So what could I control? I could control what I was putting out and what our messages were. And so Grace and Sheena and I were seeking out every day someone who was doing something good, someone who had something positive to say, something of that nature. But on my 135, one of the things that I had on there was to build my local tribe with like-minded go-givers. And so we are still continuing to work on that. So what does that look like? What that looks like is instead of these vendors, you know, doing things like, I have a roofer here. It's a really, really fun game in Dallas, who can sell a roof. here when the hail damage comes. And he always wants to give us, money back. And I said, you know what? He said, I added him on Go Givers. And he said, you know what? Can I donate that money? And I said, you know what? Yes, you absolutely can. Donate it to where you see fit on our behalf. That would be amazing. We, of course, took, food to some of the hospital workers here. I'm very fortunate, and I'm in the northern Dallas area. We have not been affected by COVID like some of the other areas of the world, thankfully, but we did that. And it's more of seeking out who can we find that have those values and want to give back, building my tribe on a community level. And I think that COVID gave us the really good opportunity. I also started a local Instagram account. It's called We Heart McKinney, where we share a lot of information. We highlight a lot of business owners, and that's been really good. But what I love about it is, of course, I've always been on Instagram, but I've never realized the power of on the side to give through Instagram. So it's very easy for me to hashtag, Giving McKinney or Giving Dallas, to be able to connect and share and spread their words. So we talk about this on Go Givers all the time. As real estate agents, we're influencers. People know us, they like us, they trust us. So why not give the opportunity and scream from the rooftops the opportunities that these other people that have to volunteer, have. I'm also a member of a very large church, so I sign my husband up a lot and myself to run little errands. He always says, as long as I don't have to do it, of course my schedule fills, and he has to be the driver all of a sudden of 14 pumpkins and 27 gallons of milk. It is what it is. And I want to get my kids involved. We have small kids, 6 and 9 years old, and I want my kids to see that. I want this to be ingrained in their being, and see that no matter what, we're going to give back. And I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I also have a personal, philosophy. I grew up very poor and didn't have extra for anything. So now I have a little saying, and I probably shouldn't say this in a public forum, but if anyone asks me for money, I always give it. It might be $1, it might be $20, it might be for I Hope, because I had to one-up Sheena, $1,000. I don't know or care what it is. I try to give something. If it means me not going to, Maggiano's one night to get takeout and I have to cook here, so be it. But I really try to be intentional about, if somebody asks and approaches, that I give something. I don't care what it is. If it's $1, if it's a jacket, it doesn't matter. And also, last and not least, a vendor that I want to kind of put out there for you guys being in real estate is your title reps, your lenders. Get them involved. They want to help us. They want to give back. Get them involved. They want to say, hey, I'm with Cardinal and I just gave $500 on Brittany's behalf. Use your influence and use your vendors who want to do something for you, but also something that's going to be better for your community, to be able to give things back, for sure. Serve on a board, volunteer. Money's easy to give, in my opinion, if it's $5, $10, but sometimes people need, especially right now, we're seeing a lot of volunteer opportunities for sanitizing things. So if you're in good health and, they need someone to come sanitize for an hour and a half, bring your kids, do something, do anything. It doesn't matter what it is, small or big, do something to help give back to your community. And then those referrals and your top of mind will come. You won't need to ask for it. It will come.
Will, I agree. And that's, in giving back, I've seen more business come in just because of what everybody sees that I'm doing for either the office or the community, and wants to work with me because of that. So that's big. Yeah. Oglah?
So I'm going to speak on from two different perspectives, from a leadership perspective as an OP, and then obviously my private life. So as an OP, one of the first things, once we got the stay-at-home order in Orlando, once we got that going, I started thinking as an OP, how do we bring all our agents along? There was a lot of fear and concern, and we really did not know the whole virtual real estate side of things. We're still stumbling around what we could do, what we could not do. So the first thing we did is I gathered the leadership team, and we literally took our roster and we split our roster, and then we also shared with the ALC members, and we were just calling every agent, texting if they were not responding, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? And then obviously at that time, the the children too, right? There was moms who were homeschooling. So there was just a lot of tension, confusion, and just people were just scared, right? Like, you know, what is this disease? So by doing that, it truly reconnected with our agents and stuff like that. So when I hear Keller Williams market centers that I say they have no engagement, it's really strange to me. We have about a 70% engagement right now. We had 79 people out of 142 agents. 79 went to mega camp. Our Zoom team meetings are full house. So we truly, truly live our culture every day by being such an amazing place to work, whether it's in the market center or via Zoom, because we wanted to let our agents and our leadership team and our families know that we truly are committed to you because you choose us. Every single day when you wake up, you choose Keller Williams, and we won't forget that. And then with the community, our culture community, our chair is very, very strong. So we did a lot of things in the community just to truly give back. So one of the things we did during Red Day is we provided lunch, we fed 750 healthcare workers in a day. We visited a local hospital. We kind of just did like a drive-by with with the sheriff and the fire department, with signs just saying, we truly appreciate you. And as a leader, my job as an OP during this time of the pandemic has been to pay attention, right? Pay attention, look at agents' social media that are friends with me, pay attention when they post things about they're feeling down, they're doing this, and truly creating a culture within our leadership team that pays attention. When an agent walks into the market center and you kind of notice that the energy is low, they're not being themselves, being able to just pause and hear them out and and really listen. A lot of people are not needing money, they just need someone to listen to, a safe place to go to just express their anxiety. When especially right now, moms that are homeschooling, you'll notice about 4:30 p.m. in the market center, they just show up and they're in this flurry because they have that one client that they have to take care of, they have to print paperwork or something. They have 3 kids at home that are homeschooling, they have to take care of the clients in the evening and go back home and be moms. So we truly have to pay attention to that. On a personal level, I live in 2 continents, 24 hours. So Eastern time, I'm in the United States, and then most of my nights I spend actually truly engaging with my family and my community back in Kenya. And one of the things that came up during COVID, because schools in Kenya have been closed until 2021, they might reopen, but literally they were shut down for the whole year. So our young girls were home, and with that, we heard a lot about our young child pregnancies, teenage pregnancies. They were averaging about 333 a day back in Kenya, rape, incest, a lot of things that were happening. So we actually got together with a friend of mine with an organization called I Hope, and we had a conversation, and I said, I cannot keep this information to myself. And who do I lean on? I lean on my Go Giving group, right? So I reached out to Brittany and Grace and Sheena, and when I explained what was going on, I mean, the response we got from our KW Go Givers, team it's blew my mind in so many ways. The response when I was calling into market centers, I know I called into Brian Garrity's San Diego Market Center on one of the team meetings. I was calling into some of my friends in Chicago, some of my friends, in DC, all Keller Williams, right, saying there's a problem. We were able to raise money very, very quickly. And then we started holding workshop and providing reproductive education to the rural parts of Kenya. And we did that in 26 regions within just 2 months. And because of the Go Givers group within Keller Williams and what we were able to do together, we were able to touch over 5,000 girls within 2 months. And we truly believe that's made a big difference. So I am so honored by the tribe that I have found within Keller Williams of such giving hearts. And I'm just so proud of the fact that Keller Williams, we get to live this culture of giving back and changing lives in international countries, like not outside the United States, in areas that a dollar makes the biggest difference. So it's been an incredible time of learning. And also finally through the Social Equity Task Force, gosh, we've been able to do so many tours. I've been on calls 3-4 times a week with different regions, just kind of bringing in education, empathy, and living our culture of truly making sure that everybody in our market centers is heard and also is included.
We need to clone you, Oglah. I mean, that was culture, like just like, I mean, I love you so much. I mean, but that's honestly true. We're living culture, not just with, you know, our own here, but internationally now, because you opened our eyes. I know that I didn't know any of that was going on, and I don't think Brittany did either. I mean, but when you told us, we just like, it's just shocking to us. So thank you. And we need to clone you because you are awesome.
Oh.
And I mean, I agree that, you know, coming together for our communities, whether they're in our own backyard or international, it's something that is a really good thing that we're all doing this with everything going on right now. I know that when all of the shutdowns hit, we were in the middle of planning Red Day. So my office, we get a little bit of a jump start on it every year. We usually pick a project in November or December, and we really rally around that project all the way through May. This year, the organization that we had selected is an organization that helps kids that are going into foster care. So they're kids that are getting pulled from difficult situations, and we're going to be at their facility doing some landscaping work and general cleanup and painting and everything. And that was our plan for May 14th. And then everything got shut down, and we normally bring 125 to 150 people on site. So we had to figure out, well, how do we still accomplish this? And we ended up spreading Red Day out into the 4 Thursdays in June. So we'd have about 15 to 20 people on site each of those Thursdays. But we still wanted to do something for actual Red Day. So we ended up, our office rallied around a clothing drive for the organization because they just have the hardest time getting clothes for kids. And we ended up in our office collecting over 500 articles of clothing in just a couple weeks to bring to them on Red Day. And then we fulfilled everything else in June. And we also typically will have several community events hosted at our office every year. We do a trunk or treat, we have a holiday brunch, we do a spring fling that we had to cancel, but we started thinking, well, what can we do for the community to still, you know, provide something like that for everyone. And we ended up doing a shredded event with a food drive for one of the local food banks, and ended up collecting more food in just 3 hours than they had ever gotten from any other food drive that had ever been done for them. So that was what can we do while this is going on, and what little things can we get back? Because Brittany, I'm like you, I can't be asked for something instant. I apologized to somebody in the parking lot of a gas station the other day because he came up and asked me if I had any money, and I said, I'm sorry, I only have $1, as I handed it to him. And that was, if there was more in my purse, he would have had it.
Yep, there you go.
Can I add something about what I said about paying attention? One of the ways I truly feel as a God-gifted, you know, giver, that, you know, I cannot do all of it, and yet I cannot stop thinking about people suffering all the time. So one of the things that I've done with social media is I've liked the Facebook pages of a couple of the churches around me, not just my church, and also like Second Harvest. So on my Facebook feed, when they post something like this morning, I saw a post from Summit Church about the fact that they have a mobile market and people could go there and get groceries and vegetables for like $1 and stuff like that. I share those posts on my Facebook page just to see if, you know, people, or actually, you know, even on we have a lot of WhatsApp groups for local communities that I belong to, I get invited to. I share that in the WhatsApp group. The feedback I've gotten for that is just, it's so touching. I've had families inbox me and say, thank you so much, we're able to get groceries today. And I mean, these are not just people that are, you will say, are needy. It's people that have been fouled out, people that have been laid off, people that are friends with you on Facebook are hurting. Sometimes they don't know where to get groceries. In Florida, our state just had such a struggle, even dispersing money from the state. Unemployment was delayed by months and months in Florida. So the people that you don't normally think are in need right now are in need. And maybe just posting something about, something like maybe Second Harvest is distributing food. If you just share that within your community and the people that know you and love you, you could change a life, or you could change a family that probably didn't have food the next day.
Really quickly, also, I want to point out that Patty wrote something, and I think that this is very relevant. She said, let's not forget that agents can be lonely too, and which I can tell you that it's my own fault that I just did not think that. And I've always said real estate's a lonely business, right? I mean, we show up, we do our stuff, maybe we leave the office, but Patty, thank you so much for that. And I'm going to put my head together as what I can do for agents that maybe don't have an Oglah that's leading their team charge, because that's amazing. And there is a lot of market centers that could learn from you, Oglah, because I know that that's not the norm. So thank you, Patty, for bringing that up, that agents can be very lonely too.
Yep, absolutely. And I think too, we can reach out. Think of your buddy in the computer room, or someone that you see, or someone that's in your downline, or just that simple. And that's what I think sometimes it's when they say KISS, keep it simple, stupid, because it's like sometimes we just think so big and then nothing, no actionable item occurs. Think small, think on a smaller level, and just those small little touches can mean so much to somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. So last question, we're getting pretty close to 6 o'clock or the end of our hour too. So I want to make sure we get up to this one is, and Oglah, you brought this up earlier too when talking about culture, but last week during Mega Camp, the International ALC voted unanimously to add equity to the Y4C2Ts. So what does that decision mean to you, and what do you think it means for the future of our company? Grace, would you like to start?
Well, I think I'm going to defer to Oglah on this question, because we only have a few minutes, and I know Oglah is just ingrained in this. And, I'm a brown person, and I'm a female, and I think that what this company has done for us is amazing. I mean, beyond anything that, I think we're just amazing. KW is just amazing. But let me let Oglah talk to this, because I know she is in there like this. So Oglah, please take my few minutes and talk to us.
So I just want to first of all share the fact that even though you couldn't see it on Mega Camp, the back channels were lit. They were on fire with people being so emotional. It's literally was like Keller Williams had brought civil rights onto the stage and taken a stand for something that's and a subject that's so touchy and so uncomfortable, and something that's not part of who we are, not because we're not a great company, but it's because we truly have never looked at our company through the lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I truly, 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 truly appreciate Gary Keller for putting himself out there, knowing that the conversations that were going to happen by independent franchise owners were not going to be easy. But he took a stand, and he said, for the first time in my lights keep going off. For the first time in the history of our company, he was willing to say, take my company and basically look at everything the gaps that exist within my company. And let's create a task force made of agents and leaders and regional directors, come together and truly address the gap that he noticed exists in our company. And the thing that if you go back to KW Connect and watch all his live LYFE sessions that are taped on our KW Connect, you'll hear Gary Keller saying, honestly, it's a subject that has never been important to me because it's never mattered to me, and I'm ashamed. And when Gary Keller said that, I said, wait a minute, we're onto something here, because when Gary Keller is known for so many things, and yet for him to say my company's platform, my company's ecosystem is going to set itself apart from all the real estate companies by really forging head on and tackling an issue that even though our company looks good and feels good, our company does not look inclusive if you looked at everybody's face in this company, starting from KWRI all the way down. So, you know, coming from a company that I worked for previously, Target, that truly started working on this back in 2009, 2010, I commend Keller Williams this year for coming on board and understanding that this is not a Black agent or Black people issue. This is an American issue. And we have to truly face the facts of our history and address parts of our history that nobody else truly wants to address, but a small portion of people. So to be a champion of equity and to be a champion of changing the trajectory of our company, and for all of us here to be part of that legacy is so incredible. When we put that suggestion on the National Task Force, when the Maryland, DC, and Greater Pennsylvania region put on the vote to be voted on the ILC, it sparked some really great conversations with our company. And it exposed some of the things that were happening. And one of it was just a lack of understanding of what that truly meant. So it forced us as leaders and the social equity task force, to go out there and do some grassroots informational session and really educate people as to why we were doing this as a company. What Gary Keller has been able to do is do something that other real estate organizations and franchises have not been able to do. And I can tell you this for a fact, because I was on a call last week and all the CEOs of all the real estate companies were there, from Coldwell Banker, EXP, Berkshire Hathaway, Century 21, all of them were on there. And we got to present what we're doing within our company. And we went last, which actually gave us an opportunity to hear what those CEOs, not any other leader, the CEO of those companies was saying about what they were doing to truly address this issue with our nation and within real estate. And they did not have a plan that was as comprehensive and as intentional as Keller Williams. When we go and update our belief system for the first time since the inception of our company, we are doing something that's truly life-changing. And even though at this moment we're talking about our Black agents, our Black communities, it's just the first domino. When you look at the one thing principles, it's just the first domino, because this is the most uncomfortable conversation that we've ever had. And if we can address this, and if we can face it head on, and if we can actually find a way to come together and rally around something so uncomfortable, it's going to be a domino effect too, that will affect every other group within our company, all the protected classes, and we'll truly have change. But we needed to have this conversation and this first domino that's very uncomfortable. So I am honored to be part of this company. I am so honored to be part of this change. And I invite everybody that you know, talk to people, to truly bring them on board, so that 20 years from today, you can look back and your children can look back and your grandchildren can look back and say, in 2020, I made a decision to be part of that change.
Can I get an
now, wasn't that awesome?
Can I get an amen?
Oglah, I'd like to just, you know, I had the pleasure of meeting you once at the Cultural Ambassador Networking event. I got to say, you have such a pure heart. I love everything about you. Thank you so much for all the work that you've put into the social task force. One of our friends, Jesse Dill, said that empathy without action is meaningless. And really, you know, I've served on the IALC. And I think that as a whole, agents, when we go to Mega Camp, when we go to family reunion, we very easily skipped past that session. It says a lot that the W4C2Ts have been changed now, as you had mentioned, from the inception to now, and that's how important this is. So a lot of people don't know what happens on an IALC. I've been blessed to serve a few years there, and I don't personally think that there has been a change in some of the voting as important or as impactful as this is going to be. You know, Grace had mentioned that she's brown. Well, obviously, so am I. And I'll tell you that the action piece of it is so important. You know, just to be able to not just have the 4C2Ts, or now it's WI4C2TES. It's hard for me to, you know, after so many years to see the new one. But it's not just about putting it up on your wall. It's really living it out. I've felt really blessed being part of this company for over 15 years and never feeling that I didn't have opportunities. And thank you for sharing that Gary had mentioned that, because sometimes when we do the God business then family, it almost is inherently already a piece of it. But to be able to stop and say, you know what, no, we're going to put some action behind it. We're going to be out front, and we're going to say to the world, this is who Keller Williams is. I commend Gary Keller for doing that. But there's also the people that are putting all of this together, and you're one of them. I just want to say thank you, because I cannot wait to see you in person. I cannot wait to give you a big hug and embrace you, because I think that you probably have one of the most pure hearts in KW.
Oh, thank
Great.
you.
You too.
And Oglah's being very, very, very humble to you guys, and how much she really had a hand in what just happened. But I won't share our private conversations, but she did have a hand in that. And I think that it's, amazing that we are all having these conversations. I think it goes back, like I was saying earlier, that KW culture means when something's not in line and it's not in culture, to say, hey, wait a minute, when it's finally brought to the forefront. And it may have taken quite some time, but the fact that they're being progressive and innovative in our industry to do that. And sometimes I think to myself, and because I was a team leader, Gary Keller, we're not a corporate. We're not just one corporate. We are franchised. So some of these people that have franchisee agreements, they've been doing the way that they've been doing things for, like, my market center since 1996. They've been doing things for a really long time. So for Gary to take a stance and then call people out when they don't want to get on board with what he has going on, with anything. And I think that goes with race. I also think we've had this discussion before too. It also goes with women, and leadership and women in Keller Williams. It goes for anybody to have the opportunity, young people, older people, whatever it may be, instead of, viewing people for the skills and what they have to bring, not kind of dismissing people based on something. We would never want to do that as real estate agents. So why would we do that as a real estate company? So, I'm extremely proud. And I do think that Gary kind of set the tone by just that email that he put out there. I felt blessed to be able to have that email, to be able to share and put it. And it was very funny because I know who copied my post, Grace. I'm just kidding. I'm very happy to share. But I was like, man, I was proud to post when Gary wrote and said, we will absolutely not tolerate this. We are taking a stance in this real estate community. And it was great to see the other real estate companies jump on that bandwagon too. So I think it's necessary. I think it's amazing that it has finally happened. And I'm very appreciative to people like you, Oglah, Grace. We've had a lot of behind the scenes conversations just to have those candid, uncomfortable conversations, even if it's on a smaller scale, and then to go out and disseminate that information. I think it's awesome.
And because we are talking about culture, this is culture. This is truly our culture being showcased at the most consequential platform, because a lot of times, we think culture is the things that feel good and the things that we can influence. This is one that's gonna need all of us to bring to life. Like Jesus said, the groundwork now is going to begin. We did it on stage. Now we really gotta truly go into our markets and live this. This is a pivoting moment in our company and our culture. And because we're talking about culture, I just wanted to tie those two things together. Be a champion and an advocate of the things you're hearing on this call, or things that you heard on stage or during the ILC vote. Culture is being a champion, taking time to explain it to somebody that didn't get it or did not participate. Culture is paying attention when somebody maybe is disputing it, being vocal about why are we focusing on this and this and this. And culture is just sticking with it, right? Like Gary Keller said, as long as he's with this company, he's not going anywhere. The conversation is not going anywhere. So let's live our culture by truly living in our truth within Keller Williams.
Agreed. And I will say, Brittany too, was very appreciative of Gary sending out that email and putting out that message, because oftentimes it gave us all something to share. Often we're a little nervous about, well, what can we put on social media? That and everybody always wants to be offended by what's being said. So to be given something so well articulated of like, this is where we stand, this is what our company stands for, and to come from Gary and come straight from the top and give us all the opportunity to be like, this is what we stand for. And I was grateful to do that. The second that I saw that email, I was copy and pasting it into Facebook.
Well, what do they say? Clarity is power.
Yeah.
So we laid it right out on right there. What are you saying, Catherine? Where's dinner? Oh my gosh, did your daughter just do that? We're going over to Dallas. We got some chicken and dumplings left over here from last night.
But parents would appreciate that I'm getting.
Where's dinner? I love it. I love her communication skills. Future leader right there, future KW leader.
But I do want to just, I think we're a few minutes after 6 on the East Coast, and I just want to thank you guys for Grace, Jesus, Brittany, and Oglah for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us tonight. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. There were several people on Facebook Live as well through my office, and we'll have the recording too by the end of the week out to everybody as well. But thank you guys so much for coming and sharing and being a part of this conversation.
Thanks for having us, Jessica. Thanks for putting this on, and thank you all for sharing with us. That's right, got culture. We should start the hashtag movement with that, Grace. Hashtag got culture.
I love
Jessica,
that.
Do it.
Thank
you
for
all.
putting this
Thank you,
together,
everybody.
Jessica.
Of course.
Thank you.
Bye. Love you,
Bye,
Wendy.
Brittany.
Bye, Brian. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Love you guys. Thanks, Jess, for putting it together.
Thank you guys
You,
so
Brian.
much.
Bye, man.
We're
Take-
so-
Yes, Brian.
Bye, Brian. Bye,
Veggie
Wendy.
dumplings.
Bye,
Veggie
Jesus.
I have to start scrolling to see who's on
Thank
here.
you.
Bye,
Ah,
Jesus.
yeah.
Inviting me.